open on this council meeting on the 24th of February. Just a couple of things, councillors. This was in our diary for starting at 9 o'clock, and it was advertised at 9 o'clock, but you would have noted when the agenda came out it said 9:30. So thank you. Thank you, Jude. So there were councillors here who were here quite early. So thank you very much for that. And then the rest of us
we're leaving
a bit
early,
later. What's that, Gary?
We're leaving early.
Are you? Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Miller.
Right. Okay, add it on at the end or take it off. Fair enough. Okay, so first item is apologies. And do we have an apology for Councillor Wilson? No, just for lateness, is it?
I'm putting one in for him.
Yeah, no, I'm just checking with Jude whether there's an apology for him today, or is it just lateness?
No, it's just lateness, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I'll move, seconded by Councillor Tooman. Those in favour, against, carried. A confirmation of the agenda. We'll take the agenda as is in the papers, so I'll move it. Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour, against, carried. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest?
Just for noting, Your Worship, that item, the Indoor Rec Centre anyway, I involved in netball, obviously, as regional and national level, as a coach.
Yes.
And, yeah, only. That's my only. I'm no longer a board member of Hamilton City Netball Centre,
Right.
so don't have.
So what do you want noted then? Because that's not a conflict of interest. You just want noted that you are.
My involvement in netball
All
is
right.
sport.
Thank you. Any others?
Your Worship, I'm in almost identical boat. I'm no longer employed by or on the executive of the Volleyball Association, so that's a change in my status from previously.
Yes, yes. No, okay. So can we just note those in the minutes then? No others? Right, next item, public forum. We have 4 speakers in the public forum. Public forum speakers have 3 minutes, and that includes time for questions. So the first speaker I've got is Mark McCabe. Mark, I'll ding a bell for you. I think 2 minutes out or something. What is it? 2.5. 2.5 minutes, you get a ding.
Thank you.
Means wind up.
Okay, I'll try and keep it to 3 minutes, Julie.
If you get a dong, you're in trouble.
Over the head. Okay, Your Worship, the Mayor and Councillors, my name is Mark McCabe, the recently appointed Chair of Sport Waikato. Sport Waikato has a focus on sport and recreation, focused around healthy, active lifestyles, young people, community sport and regional leadership. Apologies from Matthew Cooper, who's in Wellington as Sport New Zealand Forum. As an investor in the Waikato Regional Sport Facility Plan, Sport New Zealand are looking very closely at these developments. The Regional Facilities Plan, endorsed by the Merrill Forum in November 2014, prioritised the need for 2 forecourt indoor recreation facilities for Hamilton City. Since 2007, Hamilton City Council has completed 4 needs or feasibility assessments, all of which have recommended the development of facilities in different forms. Also, since 2007, we have had provision for the development of indoor facilities in the long-term plan 3 times, 2 of which no facility has been developed. I'm here today to present a case for why the time and evidence-based need is now. Until now, the time may not have been right for your investments. But this time we feel we have a project, a partner and sufficient momentum that quite simply the time is now. Today, as the Speaker, I represent the voice of sport. We have consulted and have strong community support and have with me in the room representatives of the community most likely to lead the utilisation of a new indoor recreation facility. Basketball, badminton, football, netball, volleyball, plus members of the Sport Waikato team, representatives, administrators and participants of sport themselves. Together we have a recognised need for additional indoor facilities, more than just what has been recognised in the facilities plan. It is about reversing the trends of declining Waikato adult activity levels and creating a healthy, active community. In 2007, 54% met the physical activity guidelines. 2013, 50%. Currently, we're at 46%. Both Mark Christie and Monica Leggett will talk to you soon from SportsView. The Regional Facilities Plan identified sustainable solutions for the life of an asset as a priority. Today, we have, in partnership with Council, the MOE and Central Government, an opportunity to build an indoor recreation facility now, an opportunity to broaden its concept for central government investment to build a facility in one go and have something ready in 2014 that meets the needs of a growing Hamilton City, the needs of the growing North East. And it is the first step in a journey to meet the needs of sport and recreation, building a livable city. As a representative of sport and recreation in the community and as a voice of sport, Sport Waikato respectfully asks councillors to agree to a partnership with Rototuna High School and the Ministry of Education building a facility in the northeast now. Agree to the investigation of future facilities in partnership with the University and Wintec via MOUs. We wish to thank partners, HCC staff, significantly Lance Ravoot, Rotorua High School, Megan Campbell, Fraser Hill, and the Board of Trustees, the MOE, Rob Petrie and his team, as well as the University of Waikato and Wintec, who have shown the will to work together and create an opportunity for the city that, quite frankly, we believe simply can't and shouldn't be ignored.
Sorry. Okay, so you've probably got time for one question, and Councillor Mallett had his...
Thanks, Mark. Sort of three-quarters of the way through your presentation, you said something about the life of assets and things. Would you just expand on that, please?
Pass over to Michelle Hollins, one of our team.
So the regional facilities plan talks about sustainable cost of assets over the whole of life.
Yeah.
So that talks to ensuring that operational costs are also sustainable. So it recommends partnerships with other organisations such as schools, which means the facility will be fully utilised during the day as well as in the evenings, so you don't get the peaks and troughs of utilisation in the empty facilities we see during the day normally.
Okay, so it's about balancing usage across the lifetime of the
Yeah.
thing. Thank you.
Yes.
I thought you were going to tell us that something was
Okay,
going to fall over.
So, Councillor Gallen, I'll take your question, but need to be short because we need to
Very
keep to
short,
time.
mayoral forum, which is a close deal, but Waikato District, obviously there are students coming to Rotorua from the Hamilton-based suburb of Horsham Downs. Are you going to them as well around this? Are you going to their annual plan process in terms of a potential contribution?
So our conversations with Waikato District Council and all the councils in terms of cross-boundary investment continue. We have had conversations with them on this project as well as other projects that influence both parties. So at this stage, I mean, it's still a work in progress. And we wouldn't want to see this project hung up on cross-boundary partnerships.
It's not a deal breaker, but I'm just making the point that I do think it's important they front up.
They're at the table when they're having conversations, yeah.
So I think the question was, however, are you going to speak to them at their annual plan process?
We can, absolutely, yes.
So that's a yes?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mark.
councillors.
The next speaker is Mark Christie. Mark?
Thank you, Your Worship and councillors. My name is Mark Christie. I'm the Chief Executive for Waikato Bay Plenty Football. So I'm here today just to support the opportunity to bring forward this contribution for the development of the indoor facility, and especially in the light of the financial partnership that's being offered on the table with MOE, and also for the preferred location. So I'm here representing the wider football community, and in particular for the sport of futsal. Futsal is a derivative of the traditional game. It's played with five-a-side, and it's considered as a very technical game, and it's played with a heavier ball. It's adapted. We actually had the court out on the Garden Place out here in the FIFA Under-20 World Cup, and some of you came and watched that game, so you're probably aware of what the game's like. Futsal is traditionally played indoors, but it's also can be played outdoors, and it's now being used as a training tool for the traditional game in terms of skill development. So it's actually combining with the outdoor game now, and that's hence why the support of the indoor facility. We actually futsal's experienced a lot of growth. It's in a rapid expansion, and especially in the school space. So this connection with the school is really crucial for us. Futsal is seen as a game that's very convenient. It's smaller numbers, it's quick, it's fast, it's got fitness elements. There's less restrictive rules around it. It's not a traditional sort of controlled by FIFA as such. There's a lot more user pays, but also has a social element. Hamilton doesn't have enough indoor facilities, and it is inhibiting the growth of the game, as with other indoor sports. And we find bookings are hard, they're fragmented, relying on the schools already in existence with their sports halls. A lot of the courts aren't big enough, and so it's just really struggling to get any growth traction for this particular sport. So that's why we're here to support it, and we want the sport to continue to grow, and we just need more space. So, and we'll also work in with the other sports around how these facilities are used as well, so we'll support that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mark? No? Thanks, Mark,
No
very
worries.
much. Next speaker is Monica Leggett. Hi, Monica. Welcome along.
Oopsie. Your Worship and Councillors, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I have a favourite saying, you come this way but once. I think I'm rather defeating that saying. I have been here before and I'm really very pleased to be back here, and I'm quite certain that this time we're going to be achieving what it is we've been dreaming about for a long time. While I am primarily and mostly involved with netball, I do have an awareness of the needs of other sporting groups, and I believe that by working together we can make this city a much greater sporting venue than it even is now. I'm aware of the needs of our sporting groups, and I think our major concern is the lack of a suitable indoor facility for training as well as for playing of whatever sport is going to be taking advantage of an indoor facility. There is an urgent need. Our sport is growing and we look for suitable indoor facilities so that we can develop the sport to a greater extent than we are able to now. Netball is a #1 women's sport. We're proud of that and we want to maintain that. We have as our flagship the Magic netball team. We're really fortunate that Magic can play its ANZ Championship games at our splendid Claudeland venue, but the disadvantage for Magic is they do not have a suitable place to carry out their full training programs, and the facility that we're hearing about today would answer those problems, save our players going from one gym to another for their training and intensive preparation for championships. It also gives us the opportunity to grow the game, to be sure that we're developing netball at grassroots level. We will only keep our flagship if we keep developing our players at grassroots level, and it would be our dream to be able to make it possible for many of those players to develop greater level of skill by taking advantage of an indoor facility. Therefore, I think probably my main message today is that we're passionate about our sport, we're passionate about Hamilton, we want to be able to bring events here rather than have our teams going to other districts to play their competitions. So thank you. We do hope that you will give this opportunity your favourable consideration, and I thank you for allowing me the time to present here today.
Thanks, Monica. Any questions for Monica? Councillor Mallett.
Thanks. Hi, Monica. Is it expected that it'll primarily be a training venue rather than a playing venue?
We would see it as both. We would definitely see it as a training venue, but we see it as an opportunity to host a local, regional and even national, particularly at age group level, events. And those are the events that I'm referring to. At the moment, our teams are going out of Hamilton to take part in those events. We want to be able to bring people into Hamilton where we can all appreciate this sport at that level.
And can it work around with futsal in terms of using the same space?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I think that as I understand it, a facility of this type will have a sufficient versatility to cater for volleyball, basketball, futsal, netball.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I have one question?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Monica. So you're talking about a training facility or training venue for Magic. What about, do you envisage the facility to be used at more grassroots level, like club competition level or anything else?
Yes, we would see very much opportunities, particularly at senior club level, to take advantage of an indoor facility. Those are the players that I'm talking about when we talk about growing our grassroots level. Those are the players that we're hoping will work towards the top level, either at national level or Magic level.
And from an even more grassroots level, you're talking about age group, national or regional age group competitions. Can you just describe what that means?
Yes, Netball New Zealand allocates each year the age group championships to districts, and they try to take it out into areas that wouldn't have the opportunity to host at major level. We're not in a position at this stage to even make application for an under-17 or an under-21 age group tournament, and that is a national tournament. Teams play off in their own regions to qualify to come to such an event.
And what sort of numbers are we talking about, participation-wise, with those kinds of events?
Well, you could have 12 teams from throughout New Zealand. You could take up to 20.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. And the final speaker is Megan Campbell.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Your Worship, councillors. I'm Megan Campbell. I am the chairman of Rotorua High School's Establishment Board, so it's across both schools, both the junior high and the senior high school. First of all, thank you to all those councillors and Your Worship that made it on Saturday to come out to the site and actually get a feel for what we're doing. I suppose one of the things I really tried to impress upon you is that we are very clear that we are a community-oriented school, and that means partnering with a range of organisations, including council, across the whole site, and we're actually relishing the opportunity to partner with you, the ministry. And I'd just like to sort of say the ministry are doing some pretty significant things for this type of project by contributing additional money to actually upgrade the 2 courts that we would be allocated as part of the build anyway. And that would mean that we're allocating from a standard school level up to a national level. And throughout, gosh, it feels like at least 6 months now, we've been talking to both Sport Waikato and Sport New Zealand to make sure that our design process can meet those requirements. It's really, really obvious being both a community member in Rotorua, a very large school. Obviously, we're the largest first-year intake ever for a school in New Zealand. That even at a local community level, there is a demand for community facilities. Rotorua residents at times feel a little hard done by, even though obviously we're getting reservoirs and stormwater and things like that. It's not the sexy stuff. Community facilities like these do matter. Last of all, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone involved. Lance Verville, it's been fantastic to work with through council, and obviously Sport Waikato, in particular Matthew and Michelle. And rather than go on, I imagine there's a few questions. One that I imagine you're particularly interested in is how we would see the courts governed. We believe the best way to do this is a very simple trust model, which would be 2 representatives from school, 2 representatives from Sport Waikato representing all sports, and 1 person probably from council, so that just to make sure things are balanced. And we'd see that across the whole site for ease of bookings and things like that. So if there's any other questions.
Okay, thanks, Megan. Any other questions for Megan? No? Awesome, great. Thank you very much for hosting us on Saturday. That was really, really helpful to go out there. I think councillors that went would appreciate it. Thanks for that. Okay, there's no other speakers in the public forum, so we now move to item 5, which is the budget report on page 5. So I think, Chief Executive, you're introducing that?
I'll introduce the report, Your Worship. So good morning, councillors and Your Worship. This is, my opinion, a very straightforward and well-written report that outlines very clearly what today's meeting is about. It's premised on the good work that was undertaken through the robust debate in adopting the 2015-25 10-year plan, whereby Council reaffirmed its financial strategies of rate certainty and balanced budget and debt-to-revenue ratios. In that context, this annual plan that we bring forward to you today reflects, for the most part, Council's decisions already made. It reflects some Chief Executive imperatives. I didn't choose those words. And as well as some growth expenditure that's required to meet some of the growth challenges we're facing as an organisation. We've also reviewed some key assumptions. On page 8 of the report is a table. I'm just going to take 5 minutes just to quickly take you through that table. Basically, the top line, which has an A in the centre column, 10-year budget, is the balance in the books number per the 10-year plan for 16-17 and the capital program amount. The first set of lines are Council decisions made in the 2015-16 year. So they're already decisions on books by Council, and basically they add through and come through to an amount there. Then there are the revised assumptions, the Chief Executive imperatives, and the proposal for Council consideration, and they all total down to the very bottom line of the A plus B plus C being those numbers. In the very back of the report is the updated financial models. What I can tell you is that all of the proposals reflecting the bottom line of adjusted 16-17 budget that we're recommending today to Council come within Council's financial strategy, and actually in respect of the debt to revenue margin reflected greater margin in that area. We have
Sorry, Richard, to interrupt you. The A group of things,
yes.
Those are things that are just about all on the risks and opportunity report, aren't they?
The Council made decisions.
Yeah, so just explain, sorry to interrupt you, but
Yep, no, it's fine.
There are things that aren't in the 10-year plan,
Yes.
but they are decisions that Council's already approved. So
there's resolutions and votes
Yes, okay.
against Council. There's well minuted and...
yes, so Council has made these decisions, but
correct.
they haven't been updated into it.
That's right. So effectively the process we've done is we capture all those decisions, redraw a line, that's effectively our
So
new
if you
baseline.
like, you're saying these are adjustments to the starting position.
That's correct.
Okay.
Very good way of putting it, Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you.
From a process point of view, the 10-year plan was a robust process and went through consultation. We are coming forward and making a recommendation that there's no further consultation required on the annual plan at this point, given, for the most part, well, given in all cases, the recommended changes that we're putting forward are timing adjustments within the context of the 10-year plan, and also the legislation allows for and encourages, to be fair, Council to consider the consultation already undertaken, and it also asks Council to consider whether or not there are any material or significant adjustments, and in my opinion as Chief Executive there are no adjustments to meet those criteria. So that's my general introduction, Your Worship. And
Okay, thank you for that. So, councillors, just if we look at page 9, just you'll see there's a series of recommendations that relate to the attachments. So the intention was just to work through the attachments and take them on the basis of are there any questions on those, and then deal with the motion as we work through each one of them individually. It just seems sensible to do it like that. But before I do that, I'll just ask if there are any questions of the Chief Executive in relation to what he said. Otherwise, we'll move to attachment 2. No, okay, thank you, Richard. So, looking at the recommendations, we'll go to attachment 2, which is on page 15, which is the updated assumptions. And I'm just going to ask if there are any questions in relation to that, and I think they will be directed...
Stephen Halliwell is here to respond to those questions regarding assumptions.
All right, so on page 15, any questions for Stephen on those? Yes, Councillor Mallett.
The interest saving, what's the interest rate you've assumed there, Stephen?
Just wondering, Stephen, are you going to be answering sort of a few questions as you go through? because you might want to sit up here,
At the front.
up here, Stephen, simply because you'll be interspersed, so. Right, thank you.
What about just out in the middle here?
You sit at the front here,
Just like
Stephen.
the Colosseum.
Stephen.
Stephen, here.
Oh, over there.
Yeah. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's
You're a
just
Christian being thrown to the lions.
rather than you chopping and changing, you see, it might be easier if you just up here.
The Romans had it right.
All right, so councillor Mallett, question?
Yep. Opening debt position, so I understand that. So this is just the interest saving on, first of all, what's the interest rate we've assumed? I'd be interested to know what our interest rate is.
The interest rate is 5.95%, which is the assumption from the LTP, and is essentially set because of our interest rate swaps. So it represents our actual cost.
Okay, so, okay, and this is a little bit technical, and I probably won't know how to answer the question quite right. The interest rate swaps have locked in our interest rate anyway, so we're predominantly not at risk to gain or lose from interest rate movements in the market for a wee while, because a lot of it's locked in anyway. Is that right? So that's why you can be confident saying it's 5.95?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And that's only interest as a consequence of things like improved, the balance has reduced, the opening debt balance has reduced as a consequence of things we've been told about, increased development levies, operational savings, those sorts of things. So this is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This doesn't have that $10 million fudge figure for the capital projects that won't get done, that we don't know, but we...
So are you talking about potential deferred capital?
Yeah.
Right. No, because that's a moving feast, but
Yep.
certainly when we get the budget final figures in June, I guess, that'll be clear, won't it? So I think...
This is a calculation that comes out of the model.
Yep.
And it takes account of our estimated opening position, as well as the additions and changes during the year. There is assumption in the model that new debt comes on halfway through the year to allow for the timing of new projects and things like that.
Okay. At the last Finance Committee, my memory's not going to be that good, but I remember there was and I don't use this disparagingly when I say that, but there's a fudge figure. There's a $10 million negative capital project because we're pretty sure we won't achieve all of our capital programs, but we just don't know which it is. But in actual fact, it looked like our CapEx underspend was going to be about 22 million from memory.
Yep, so...
So has the fact that we've allocated for 10 million, but it's actually going to be twice that much, been reflected in this?
Yep, so, because Stephen wasn't at the Finance Committee meeting, you're right, Councillor Mallett, we effectively make an adjustment to our, not to our debt position, but to our interest costs to reflect the fact that we expect there will be a certain portion of our capital program deferred into the following year.
And why this matters, to the extent we can accurately reduce our budgeted interest expense, we can reduce our rates. We don't have to rate so much.
Or pay
rates
debt,
to rate,
or pay down
interest
debt
rates.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's an advantage that we can offset against rates or debt, yes. And
should reduce our rates, but anyway.
That's the discussion.
Okay.
And so basically, we will continue to monitor our closing debt position as we look to finalise our annual plan. And if it's $22 million, we'll ensure that that adjustment's reflected. Just bear in mind the comment that Blair mentioned was there's a portion of that is not a true 22 million because there's some subsidies that come off against that $22 million amount. So Blair, remember, he noted that the 22 million is the gross figure without any reductions for subsidy. But we will reflect whatever the amount is as we do our final number.
Okay, thank you. So when will that happen? Okay, so this is going to go through a process, and as we get close to finalising it, we'll finalise it given the most up-to-date numbers we've got, eh?
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Pascoe.
Yes, I have a question on the depreciation, the additional expense of 2.150 million that's estimated there. I do recall a couple of years ago it went the other way, that we actually had a credit of about $3 million at the end, $4 million at the end of the year. How accurate is that? I know that there's a revaluation going on, or there has been a revaluation being done or completed?
So revaluation of our underground water and sewage and stormwater assets has been completed and is currently being peer reviewed. That valuation will be booked back to 1 July of this financial year, and then we'll have a flow-on effect through into future years. So this represents the flow-on effect of that, as well as an additional amount of depreciation for the higher than budgeted vested assets that we've received this year. So the valuation isn't final, it's subject to peer review. However, I'm quite confident that the $2 million allowance represents a sufficient budget to meet that.
Because it is an additional cost.
It is.
Yeah, it is an additional.
And it affects our balance in the books.
So you're not expecting it to be beyond that, the
No.
increase not to be beyond the 2.1 million?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, if there's no other questions on the assumptions part, which is attachment 2, I will then move the recommendation.
Could I just have one other question, sorry?
Yes.
And it's just about the interest rate, the 5.95, and I appreciate these things are all set, the swaps are all set a long time ago and that sort of stuff, and I'm not trying to double guess, but, you know, mortgage interest rates now are significantly lower than that by almost 1.5%. And these are the things that you see in the paper every day. We would have to be one of the most low-risk borrowers because we've got the whole city to use as collateral. Is there is there any strategy we can do to bring that down? Because I mean that's
once you've bought your swaps for a term.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't want to go on a whole lesson on the treasury management. Once you've bought your swaps for a term, then you're locked into that.
Okay.
We have they expire at different periods, and as they expire, then I would expect that interest rate to come down.
Because that's probably
depending on the price of new swaps,
Yeah,
and at the moment that would suggest they would go down.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm not second guessing, but at the moment the swaps are not helping us much, are they? They're giving us certainty, and this is not me criticising anyone. I know. I mean, 2 years ago when you set these things up, I didn't know what interest rates are going to be, so I'm not going to say that. But the impact is we're paying a little more now than we would be if we'd been floating.
Yep, and your point you make about certainty is absolutely correct. Yeah. And our treasury management policy, one of the core principles is around certainty. So it requires us to actually have our fixed rate of interest for a period of time within a certain range of percentages in terms of being fixed and float versus floating, and we've achieved that, so that gets reported through to the Finance Committee. The downside is the point you're raising now, Councillor Mellon.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor King?
Yeah, I'd suggest it's not a little difference, it's a huge
difference.
It's huge. And it's 20%, and it's one of our biggest costs. So it's massive. When do the bulk of these swaps fall off for come up for renewal? Are they I mean, we've been talking about this now for 18 months. Some of them must be falling off now and being redone at 4%.
Yep. So we don't have that information available today, but we can make that available to Council. That won't necessarily impact on the decision we make today, because that's what it is, based on the weighted average swap rate. But we will make that information available to you, councillors.
So can I suggest, because this is governed by our policy, so there's a policy that we sign off on, councillors, that sets out the parameters by which the staff then manage the borrowing. So if you are wanting to look at that, why don't we make a note the next finance meeting just to raise some more clarity around that policy, because we review that policy every in our 10-year plan, because we've got staff certainty, long game certainty.
Well, I'm not trying to get into operations here. What I'm asking is, are the bulk of them falling off? Are they over 2-year periods, or are they over 5-year periods?
There's a range over the longest swap, 10 years swap periods.
Some of them are 10 years.
Yeah, so that's why this takes a while for the tail to roll out.
Yep.
And ultimately, the future swap rate may not be where the current mortgage rates are, because the market's indicating there might well be, you know, in 10 years' time, there might be an uplift as well, so there's not a direct comparison, but we'll bring a comprehensive report to Finance which explains that and provides councillors with the profile, and also what we're doing about addressing that interest rate as well, because there are things we can do in terms...
Yeah, right now they're at internationally lowest they've been
that's
for
right.
30 years, and they are at 10-year rates the lowest they've ever been as well. So
that's right.
Yes, and I think, as you know, with the policy councillors, we set a percentage by which we accept fixed and floating to give the staff guidance about how to do that. So I've got a note here.
So I'm not looking for more reports. What am I
No,
money spent? What I'm asking for is,
we understand.
have we built in the savings that are going to roll through over the next few years as these swaps fall off? Are they reflected in the budget?
Yeah, we've done our best to reflect those. So where we've got a floating, our modelling reflects the roll-off of swaps. So as you go further out, there's more become floating towards the back end of the 10-year period, and we've used the appropriate rate. But bear in mind, this is a discussion around 16, 17. So we've used the best rates available at this point. The 10-year plan was premised based on that mix of floating versus fixed as the fixed roll out through the swap rates. So we've done that. But I think it is worthwhile to actually refresh council on that, on that treasury management side of things as well. So I'll talk to the GM corporate about a report we can bring back through as well, just to give some information and context.
Yeah, and also expiry dates on the swaps, because as you say, we have short and long-term swaps.
We've got very comprehensive reporting, Your Worship.
Yes, so let's just have an update on that, because it's useful to keep your eye on that and just familiarise ourselves again with that.
At the last Finance Committee, I'm pretty sure we do it we're compliant with our policy, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yes, that's
we have a report every Finance Committee. All right, Councillor, so I've moved the recommendation at 39 on page 9.
Can I, we haven't looked at attachment 1 yet. We went straight to attachment 2.
Yes, correct. Did you want to raise a question on attachment 1? Or can we just...
Well, we haven't had an opportunity yet.
Sorry. So, well, I did say what order we do it in, but can we deal with this one first and then come back to your question on that?
So your plan was to come back to attachment 1, was it?
No, I was moving, as I said to you, I was going to move through the recommendations. So what I'm going to do is pick up your comment. Can we just dispose of attachment 2 now, and then I'll come back to you about your question. So seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Does anyone wish to speak on this? No? So can I put this to the voices? All those in favour? Is there any against? No? Okay, thank you. So Councillor King, you had a question on attachment 1. What was the question? So attachment 1 is on page 12.
Sorry, I'm a bit lost here. What did we dispose on?
We voted on the assumptions at attachment 2.
Which is where?
Page 15, Andrew.
Page 15, Councillor.
So it's about the interest rates,
The one that we've been talking about.
Interest rates and inflation rates and stuff like that.
So I'm now coming back to you because you raised a question about attachment 1. So I'm just coming back to you now. Attachment 1 is on page 12, and you said you had a question on that.
Yeah, on page 13, we've got a loss of revenue of $500,000 plus on parking revenue. And looking through this, I presume this $500,000 is lost because we are going to stop charging from 3 o'clock until 5 o'clock. Have I got that correct? Who's in charge of parking?
Chris Allen will be answering those questions. Chris, this is this information sheet on the parking.
Yes, the 500 for the parking revenue losses are related to decisions council's already made. And those are set out in attachment 1 on page 13, implementation of the CCTP parking changes. So in paragraph 2 there, it's got a summary of the council decisions. So we've reflected that decision and looked at parking revenue and estimated the parking losses associated with that decision.
So is there an opportunity to readdress this today, this $500,000 revenue loss?
So Councillor King, if you want to change that, you can put a motion to the council if you wish to do that.
Okay, when's the correct time to
You can
do
do
that?
that now. So what motion would you like? Would you like to put a motion?
Yeah, that the parking,
Just a point of order, Chair. Is this rescinding the earlier decision? Is this a motion that will rescind the earlier decision that council has already made?
Well, I just need to hear what the motion is first.
that the parking, the hours of revenue collection for parking stay the same as they are, the same as they have been.
Okay, so can we put that, type that up perhaps on the board so that we're clear what that motion is? So I'd just like to repeat it, thanks councillor King, so that Jude can type it on the board.
Oh, well, staff can probably help me to get the wording right. My intention is that the policy stays the same as it is now, so we don't get the loss of revenue.
Your Worship, can I just understand where Councillor King's coming
So
from?
let's just wait till there's a wording up and just get that clear. I think the wording would be that the parking changes in the central city transformation plan not be implemented. Would that, do you think, cover it?
Well, I'm happy with the technology going in,
Yes.
which is a cost
That
saving.
was a separate.
Yeah, and that's a cost saving as
Yeah.
well. But this-
Yeah, so the changes to parking proposed in the central city transformation plan not to be implemented. So the effect of that is that there'd be no change to the current parking regime. Yeah, that's what I think you want to do, isn't it? Yeah. So let's just get that wording up there. And then we'll see if there's a seconder for it first, and if there is, then we'll, I think some staff may have some clarification questions for the General Manager. Councillors may.
Councillor Mallett.
So that's sufficient, Chris, to mean that things would stay as they are today?
Yes, I believe, Your Worship. The technology is a separate issue, so it wouldn't
Yes,
affect
it
that.
is, separate resolution.
So the key issue is the current hours of parking charges are 8 till 6. The CCTP put an hour free in the beginning till 9 o'clock and after 3. So effectively you'd be voting to go back to parking charges applying from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m.
Yes, right, thank you. So were there any clarification questions required now? Deputy Mayor, you...
I think that's explained, but basically they are opposed to free parking in the CBD.
Well, I think you heard what the General Manager said about the 9, free before 9 and free after 3. That's what we voted in the CCTP. This motion is to not proceed with that. Okay. Councillor O'Leary, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Given that that parking plan has been voted on and is embedded in the CCTP, that is by resolution of council. So this this motion is in effect reversing a resolution of council. So how is that able to occur?
I'll ask the Democracy Manager to explain it if I don't get it right. Get it correct? Or do you want to explain it?
Yeah, my view, Madam Chair and councillors, is that the Chief Executive has brought all these matters back by way of a staff report to the council. So I would consider that the council could, without going back to the resolution and looking at it in detail, that council could accept a motion as put before you today.
On anything, even a previous resolution of council?
Well, I'm just dealing with this one, councillor, and I would say it's in order.
I think it's got to come out of a report. Yeah.
Okay.
So does that clarify the procedural aspect of it? In terms of process, yes, it can be, it is appropriate for a motion to be put. Yeah. Right, any other questions on this? Anyone require any further information? I think it's pretty straightforward.
So is the revenue loss actually the $500,000 or is the revenue loss 820,000?
So, councillor, the revenue loss for a year moving forward will be 820,000. The 500 reflects that the decision made was to implement it in about November when we've got the new technology, so it's part of the financial year. So that's why the 500 is part of the 862, because it's not covering the full 2016-17.
Okay, if there's no other question, yes, councillor Ting.
I'm just a little bit confused here. Perhaps Chris can help me. My understanding of it is that we were going to do away with the parking meters outside of what I call the central zone. Am I correct on that one, Chris?
No, the decision for the technology was to keep the existing parking meters outside a zone where we would put in the new technology. So the new technology is a part of the CBD, the core of the CBD, but outside that core, the existing parking regime, including meters, would continue. And it's a smaller core, so the technology will, I can't quite remember the geographical location, but it's the core CBD that maps to downtown, I think, in the district plan.
Were we not just going to go to time limits outside of that central core area so that the technology would monitor it instead of the parking wardens?
No, so that it was to keep everything the same outside the new core, which was the focus CBD area.
So effectively the new policy will be we're losing 3 hours of meter time per day, free before 9 o'clock and then after 3, so that's 4 hours, sorry, which we'll be losing from the parking meters at this stage.
That's correct, and some associated infringement revenue from enforcement in terms of parking time limit enforcement. And as per set out in the table on page 13.
Yeah. I'm just querying as to how we would actually be losing enforcement revenue if we're still going to have the same amount of time limit parking plus parking meters. I think it's a bit of a guess because my impression is that the number of unlicensed motor vehicles operating around the city at the present time, I would have thought it would be increasing.
So
the revenue.
Yep, so the decision of our council, and our council referred to it as free and free, so to not enforce time limits after 3 p.m. So we are still have a requirement and I think a demand for parking services for illegal parking across driveways, taxiways, buses. So at that time they'll still be looking at traffic infringements, etc. The way our rosters work before 9, it's likely that our parking wardens will concentrate on the management of traffic in terms of clearways rather than be patrolling some of the parking. So if you look at the figures, the bulk of the revenue loss is through the parking meter revenue, but there is a small impact on revenue, on infringement revenue.
A question, Councillor Gallagher?
Sounds very high level, and obviously we've been working with the Central City HCBA. The motive here is to make the CBD friendly for shoppers, given the competition they have from the suburban, right? So I get about the commuter car parks and trying to get them off where shoppers should go. And I'm just trying to work out, in terms of a direction of travel, nothing set in concrete, what's going to be easier. And I'll be interested in the movers when the debate happens as to what this actually means for shoppers.
Yes, well the proposals in council have had this debate. It's all about revitalisation of the CTTP and attracting people into the central city. It was felt, my recollection, that a component of free parking was highly valued by the businesses in the area, but also for the people visiting the central city, to have some component of free parking. Councillor Bate went to that first hour in the morning for people coming in and doing their quick shopping and having cups of coffee. After 3, to try and attract them in to shop and then take some advantage of the entertainment facilities in the CBD. So,
and the technology rollout eventually gives us flexibility?
The technology is associated but complementary to that in terms of flexibility and how people can pay. They can just walk from their car to the shop and pay en route. They can extend their parking times by mobile technology, essentially bringing us up into the 21st century in terms of parking technology.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no... Yes,
I just have a
Councillor
question. The CCTP has been adopted.
Young.
If this motion is successful, does the plan need to come back to us for a further debate? Because something needs to be changed in the plan, right?
No, it doesn't need to come back. There were 2 resolutions made when the CCTP was adopted. There was a CCTP resolution and a specific parking resolution. What it will mean is this, there's one aspect of the CCTP that's not affected, that's not implemented. So we do not need to bring it back.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll go to debate. Councillor King?
This is not about free parking. The free after 3, all the parks that are in town will fill up with restaurant staff and bar staff who come into town before the people come in to spend. It's hard to get a park in town at the moment. With those parks being free, a lot of these staff start work at about 4 o'clock. With these parks being free, and with the people who buying in the traditional retail shops in town have gone, that all these parks are going to fill up with restaurant staff and bar staff. Then when those who come into town come to get a park to spend, there's going to be no parks there. So I believe that the whole rationale behind this is flawed. So the cost of us providing free parking for bar staff and restaurant staff will be $820,000 out of our budget, and it still won't revitalise the city centre because people will come in here and it will be worse than it was before because the parks will be gone. Those parks will be taken right through until the restaurants close and those bar staff and restaurant staff leave. So during probably the busiest time of the day in town, these parks will be taken by those who work in the restaurants and bars. So in effect, what I'm saying is that we're going to lose $820,000 worth of revenue, nearly $1 million, to provide free parking for bar staff and restaurant staff. I don't think that's the intention of. That's not the intention of the reason why we've done this. It's an unintended consequence, and I just don't know why we'd do that while losing close to $1 million off out of our budget. Thank you.
Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Miller?
Yeah, I'll be brief. It is also just another example of the ratepayers being forced to subsidise one part of the city, the CBD, over and above other parts of the city, and that's wrong.
Any other speakers for or against? No? Okay, councillors, then we're going to go to the board to vote on this motion.
Can I override a reply?
Oh, sorry, Councillor King. Yes, you most certainly can have a right to reply.
I just want to make it very clear that I'm not against free parking.
Okay, thank you. Right, we're voting on the board for or against this motion.
motion is lost. 5 votes for and 7 against.
Okay, thank you. Right, the next item is attachment 3.
Could I just going back to item 1 and above item 1, can I just get clarification that the line A, which starts off at 1.951 million and 72 million, they're adjusted figures that take into account what we expect the opening position to be on the 1st of July, taking into account the risks and opportunities?
I think the attachment 1. A on the
Page 8.
Sorry, the line described as A on page 8.
The line described as A is the position as per the long-term plan.
Without an adjustment for...
Without any adjustment, the adjustment is B, is the amount of the adjustment, and the next line down is the sum.
Those things there
of
are
those
the
two.
adjustments, Rob. Rototuna Reservoir, Clarence Street Theatre, Celebrating Age, those are the ones that are on the risk and opportunity.
Okay, I understand.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Right, page 19, attachment 3. So, Lance, are you addressing these matters for questions? Thank you.
I'm happy to take any questions on the first line item, Your Worship.
Right,
if
so
there are any.
are there any questions, councillors, on Water World renewals and zoo capital operations, and then the Chief Executive can also speak if you have any questions to the restructuring and efficiencies savings. Deputy Mayor?
19.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. To Lance, point 14 on page 20, you talk about a meeting to be held on February 23. I'm struggling to understand what the alternative options might be. Is that the use of school pools or going to Cambridge or Kiamutu?
Yeah, that's correct, Deputy Mayor. What we want to work through is, you'll see in the recommendation around the closure of the pool sometime between July and December. We have a couple of options around that, the timing. One of them is a bit later than, we were looking at a winter closure around July. We're actually thinking, talking with the swimming groups, Swim Waikato and other user groups, is there another option a bit later on where we could heat the Lido pool, the outdoor pool at Water World, a bit earlier than normal? And can we work with our partner pools to maybe get them to open up a little bit earlier as well, because they normally open around the Labour weekend type date. So until we've had those discussions and ongoing discussions, we have a couple of options around the closure period. So you're correct, there are a key part will be communications about where the user groups could move to, and further afield such as Waikato District Council or Waipa District Council pools as an option. So we've still got a bit of work to be done on that planning. There are a couple of options, so you're correct, and there are limited options, but we're looking at that. I'd have to say though, the indications that Dee and Matthew Bayliss, our Swimming and Rec Manager, have given me is that Swimming Waikato are supportive of the upgrade renewals, which we've outlined in this report, obviously for the long-term future-proofing of, significant aquatic facility.
So there is a clear understanding of the issues that we are facing with Water World and an acceptance that this work needs to be done.
Correct, and as you've probably read in the report, there's a consequential benefit of doing the pipe work, where rather than having pipes going under the ground and under the tank of the pool, which are hard to access and that sort of thing in the future, is actually putting the pipe work around pretty much the edge of the 50-metre pool now, with a step system over that for entry into the pool by the swimmers, which actually means that it will raise the height of the pool, which means that actually more water and more depth, which has a consequential benefit of actually being able to hold, rather than the second grade national champs, we can actually have full national standard depth for the pool tumble turns and for competitive swimming. The other thing is it'll allow more functionality around some other water sports such as underwater hockey and also water polo.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions, Councillor Mallett?
Thank you. The revenue fails you've had from Club Aqua, how are they dealt with? Like all this year, we've been told that there was an overstatement of revenue for Club Aqua, and we hadn't adjusted for it somehow, and now it was coming up in risk and opportunities or something. Things is that last year's issue? Is it? Is that 2000 year in the year we're in, 2016? Is that issue buried in there? Is it?
Well, it's sort of partly in here. Just to be clear, Club Aqua will remain open while the pool's closed,
yep.
so we'll still get the revenue from Club Aqua.
So it's not regarding that. It's that throughout, even excluding this issue with the maintenance and whatnot, Club Aqua was failing to get the revenue was expected
against what the budget was.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've got the. I think I outlined it at the Finance Committee last week. So we're just finishing that work with PwC. Yeah. And we're bringing that report back to the next Finance Committee, which will take councillors through that.
But just to be clear, that figure, that revenue shortfall, impacts the year end of 2016.
Correct.
We are talking about year 2017 here, aren't we?
Yeah. We're suggesting we bring that report back, and then that matter is addressed during the LTP once councillors have a clear understanding of that.
But is the revenue shortfall, has that been accounted for? Has that been accounted in an opening balance?
Your Worship?
For the budget.
Yeah, so has it been picked up, is the question. Has it?
We made because we hadn't got the finalised report, I made a call to manage that through risk and opportunities for next year. So we haven't budgeted for that change.
So I think Councillor Mallett's point, so when you get the report, that's coming back before the end of this financial year.
April, Your Worship.
Right, so then we can have a good discussion, that bearing in mind, Gary, that the final numbers come through to us sort of June-ish.
Yep.
If we determine, based on that advice from PwC and the staff, that we do need to make some adjustments, we need to be cognisant of that.
Yeah, okay, so I guess there's
not known yet.
There's two things. One is that you're right, the amount that's not known yet, which would be a change to our opening position for 2017, wouldn't it? Because that would affect on our operating activity for 2016.
Not the opening position, it'll just be an ongoing change to our revenue line. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And it will have some impact on our revenue expectations going forward, I suppose, is that right?
That's correct, but just from the work that I've seen, there's also, and without overstating or over-promising things, there is an opportunity to earn additional revenues in other activities at Waterworld, such as Learn to Swim, and we're just doing some analysis around the deepening of the pool. Does that, with more activity, does that generate more revenue as well around those things I mentioned before to the Deputy Mayor's question? So I think we just need to factor all that in and then bring you a comprehensive report back so you know the actual full situation.
So we should just put that, though, on the list for the June annual plan meeting, just to make sure we tick it off if we haven't, to pick it up. So thanks, Gary.
Thank you. And Chief Executive Imperatives.
Yes.
Restructuring and efficiency, net saving 440,000.
Yes.
What are the details of that?
Councillor, I previously provided that information. So there's two aspects to it. There's already $500,000 worth of efficiency savings built into the 10-year plan as a baseline, and so they were the savings identified through the support services review.
This is EON's.
Yeah, that's correct. So the support services reviews at that level. This 440,000 is the net savings following my restructuring. So it reflects an overall reduction in headcount.
Almost pays for the Waterworld.
Conveniently so, but that's not. Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind seeing some details of what makes it up.
I can provide that information. I've got to be cognizant of the privacy of individuals involved. But I'll provide some information.
Oh, you can trust me.
Right, any other questions on this, Councillor Pascoe?
A question around Waterworld renewals. The cost of redoing the concourse floor surface, the budget in this amount of the 2.9 million, that's the gross cost and ignores any recoveries that we might achieve from past work that's been done. That's been done there.
Yeah.
So any recoveries will be a credit against that.
That's correct.
Yep.
So, I'm not sure if it's clear in the report, so the breakdown is out of the 2.9 million is 1.5 million for the pipes, 500,000 for the filtration and 900,000 for the flooring, notwithstanding the matter that you've brought up.
Yeah, okay. And the second question is the work around the pool's recirculation and water filtration, that is really basically a renewal, that those assets have been fully depreciated, and essentially what we're doing now is renewing assets that have reached the end of their economic life.
That's correct, and there's also a technical change too around filtration going from diatomaceous earth to sand, which is standard practice now.
Yep, thank you.
Yes, councillor Mallard?
Just the $900,000 for the flooring.
Worst case scenario, remember there are options around that, and Dee's team are just working through those options as well.
That just seems huge. I mean, you could buy a house, a beautiful 6-bedroom house with a section for $900,000. What on earth?
So should we do that?
My place, with a bloody earthquake fault right through it.
So if you recall the briefing in the previous report on this, that there are some different options, different quality options, and we're looking at, and this is...
That just sounds way out of kilter with what we're getting. I find it hard to believe that.
If I may, through the chair, if you remember the report that I presented to
I do remember the report.
Provided the options around the different flooring, which are in line with standards within the aquatic facilities, 900,000 being the worst case scenario. So we're just working through at the moment with Opus around what is the best option that we're going to get the best bang for buck that's going to provide.
So how many pools is it going around?
That will be laid within the facility that will actually last the lifetime of the facility.
The whole facility, so it'll be the 25, the 50 and the
all the indoor
and the
pools.
dive pool.
Yes,
yeah,
that's correct.
Where the
Just
current
all around the pools.
where the current material's on at the moment, which is failing.
I'm just flabbergasted by how much that is. It just seems
So what you're saying is, of course, that you're waiting to work through the contract arrangements to see what the final price would be.
Yeah.
So I guess...
It's quite complex because it's interrelated with the pipe work, because we're going to have to...
Yeah, but the pipe work's in there. That's separate.
Yeah, we're going to have to dig certain things up. So, but there are options. There was 3 options. There was one around about, I think it was about 300,000. There was one...
600
and there was one around 900. They're different types of surfaces, so we're just working through that to make sure that we get something that will last the distance. We really want something that's going to last 40 to 50 years, expanding the asset life, because this is our major aquatic facility. It is you know, a facility that's quite old now, and this is really about future-proofing it going forward. But you can be reassured that we will follow the most prudent option, both financially and in performance. And so we're not looking at gold-plated, we're looking at something that's modest. So, but we will be reporting back on this once we've been through.
I just wonder what other councillors think of that. That's just an extraordinary amount of money for.
Well, I suppose, Councillor Mallard,
well,
at the end of the day, we can debate whether we think it's extraordinary or not, but I think we've got to take it, the staff have, you know, made the inquiries, and they're going to drill down to the detail once they've got the contract in place, and we'll get that information. Now, Councillor Mallard...
Yeah, just to get some perspective around that, can you tell us what the cost of the last contract was to do that work? Because I remember it being somewhere around 600,000 or 700,000.
And that was for one that failed.
Yeah.
647,000.
If you want that one that works, it's 900.
Do you have a question?
Yes.
Yes, what is that?
The 50-metre pool will be raised, do you know by how much?
About 30 centimetres.
30, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So is it common for the pool to have a step in a slippery environment? Is it health and safety? Or?
We've thought that through with the step, we believe, with our lifeguard regime, yes, and with education of users. Yeah, so it's funny you bring it up. I was actually just talking to Dee about that the other day. So that's something that we have worked through. Yeah. Obviously, you know, we do enforce no running and things like that. And then we also have the disability access as well. So.
I haven't seen any pool with the steps around.
Some have, some of the older ones, some of the, you know, older municipal pools around New Zealand have had large sides to them. School pools are quite often ones which are actually half out of the ground, half in the ground, so, and they have ladders and that sort of thing.
And if you do look, if I may through the chair, if you look at the 50-metre pool, it does actually have a step
anyway. Yeah,
To the poll,
but,
Okay. And
All right,
secondly,
yeah.
do you expect the Gallagher Aquatic Centre, the revenue will come up during the closure of the water well?
We've factored that in. We have to be a little bit careful about overloading that as well. Gallagher's reasonably well used, and some of the discussion previously was around capacity, during the day. Most people want to go before work or after work or on the weekend. So it's just about how can you shift that capacity there. It is challenging. So we do need to look for those other options. Look, I think at the end of the day, yes, it is a closure for several weeks, but I think the messaging is that this is necessary work and that we're actually going to be future-proofing this facility. And I think in managing that through Swim Waikato, very supportive of this, I think that people will be understanding of the situation.
Thanks.
Okay, there's no other questions. We'll go to page 9 where the recommendations are. So I will move B, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Is there any debate on that? No, so we might use the board. I think it's just easier, councillors. So if there's no debate. So we're on page 9, number 40, first recommendation B. The council approves the efficiency savings. Everyone got that? All right, so we're voting now on the board.
Is this all attachments or?
Now, if you go to page 9,
Yes, got it.
paragraph 40, efficiency
Okay, sorry,
savings
yep, got
B.
it.
That's what we're voting on the board.
Yep.
Carried unanimously.
Over the
I was
page,
hoping we'd take the money back.
page 10,
I was hoping we could take the money
I'll
back.
move C and D, seconded by councillor Forsyth. Does anyone wish to speak for or against? Okay, we're going to the board to
Hang on.
vote. Sorry.
C and D, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yep.
That's the water world ones.
Okay, we're going to the board to vote. And
Carried 11 votes for with councillor Mallett dissenting.
And I will move E. And that's seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Anyone wish to speak for or against E? Councillor King.
This is the zoo stuff.
There's no discussion on the subject?
No, I'm saying, you said you wanted to speak, I'm not sure for or against the motion.
You
There's a
didn't call
motion.
for questions first?
Yes, I did ask. I said we're on. Yes, I said, guys, we're on attachment 3. Do you have any questions? Lance is here to answer them. Do you have some questions?
I'd like to speak to it. I'm just making sure there's no questions first.
Yeah, okay. So off you go.
Okay. I'm speaking against this spend on the zoo. This council is keeping exotic animals in cages for the public to view behind safety barriers while breeding them when they will never be released back into the wild and into their natural environment. Animals in circuses, which were there when I was a child, have become socially unacceptable, and large sea creatures being trained for public entertainment, being held in captivity, are now frowned upon. And one day, zoos holding animals that will never be released back into the wild will no longer be accepted by the majority of the general public either. The zoo should have natural natives in there that are injured, or breeding them if they're endangered, if they're an endangered species, for release back into the wild, or dare I say it, into a fenced waiwhakariki. I'm talking about New Zealand natives, Kiwis and the like, tuataras. The message that I'm sending today is that this council is responsible for that zoo, and that we need to start broadening our thinking and considering whether what we're doing is right. Because I don't believe in another 50 years' time, the age I am now, I don't believe that that zoo will be holding exotic large animals that will never be released into the wild. So I'm voting against this or any spend on the zoo in its present state.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Mallett.
I have some sympathy with Councillor King's comments. However, I don't think that his thinking will carry the day today. So I think, given that I'm pretty sure the zoo will be there and we will still have tigers and lions there, I think it's appropriate that we do take efforts to ensure staff safety. And I know that's not something that Andrew was dismissing at all. So I'm not trying to imply that he's not trying to improve the safety for staff. But I do think that today we will not make a decision to release the tigers. So I think we do need to improve our safety out there.
Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Gallagher.
Yes, I think in terms of the bigger debate, I hear what Councillor King says and I respect that. But I also want to acknowledge the huge conservation role that under the good leadership that our zoo undertakes, and obviously those are international cross-border conservation programs. So the conservation programs are not just restricted to New Zealand species, they are part of international partnerships as well. I also know that respectfully, very respectfully, if you have the dough, you can go to other parts of the world and experience seeing wildlife. If you're of average income or below average income, an appropriate zoological park is your next best thing, and I think it gives great pleasure to a lot of people. But I think respectfully, the zoo is not just a cage. It's not a cage. It is actually engaging in a whole range of events and protection and conservation, and I certainly respect that. In terms of this budget request, obviously, you know, reading the notes very, very closely and very carefully, this funding is needed.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Forsyth?
Briefly, yeah, look, I don't think it's the discussion today is about whether we're going the merits of having zoos or not. I don't think that's the topic of debate. It's whether we're willing to spend $300,000 on much needed enclosure upgrades, and yeah, I'm certainly for the spending of $300,000 on the zoo.
Right, any other speakers? Okay, I don't wish to speak, so we're now going to the board.
David.
Carried 10 votes for and 2 against.
Okay, so we're going to break for a cup of tea and we'll come back at 5 past and we'll then move to attachment 4.